Hello, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Wednesday, May 20th. News headlines from Arkansas. Governor Asa Hutchinson's office today announced the agenda items for his special legislative session, which will begin May the 26th. It, of course, will include a special state bond issue to provide money for Lockheed Martin to make a better bid to build military vehicles at its plant at Camden. This is a funny thing to me. We've had long interest in corporate welfare measures like this, but it's interesting. Arkansas, which has a state general revenue budget each year of about $5.1 billion, is going to lend money to Lockheed Martin, which had gross profits of more than $5 billion in 2014 on sales of $45 billion. Maybe they should be loaning us money. The other big news on the special session call is that the governor proposes to move the presidential primary, in fact, move all primary elections in 2016 from May up to March. This will accommodate Mike Huckabee's desire to be on the ballot in all the southern states on the same date in March. He believes that'll help his presidential candidacy. This will move legislative elections and all other primary elections that year up to March. This will be great news for incumbents. Earlier deadlines, they won't have a legislative session in February to prevent them from raising money for their primary election races. But this will put off the regular fiscal session of the legislature until May that year. April, excuse me. This could provide a short deadline for finishing up work on the extension of the private option version of Medicaid. You know, that's still on the agenda for the next fiscal year. So it could be a very dramatic time as a result of changing our election schedule to help Mike Huckabee. Other news today, the federal government announced some 300 arrests in 4 states, including Arkansas, for illicit drug prescriptions. These are for painkillers like hydrocodone and oxycodone. The investigation, called Operation Pillution, has been underway for 15 months. 300 people arrested. 22 of them were doctors and pharmacists. A doctor's clinic said to be related to a pill mill in Dallas, Texas, and a pharmacy in West Little Rock were among the places where arrests were made this morning. Elsewhere in Cabot last night, parole officers arrested a parolee on a drug possession suspicion. They were looking for somebody else, found him, put him in handcuffs, put him in a police car. Somehow they didn't find a gun he was reportedly carrying. He got a shot off while he was in the police car. The shots were returned fire by officers. He was killed. He was a 35-year-old man with only a drug conviction on his record. Not yet clear exactly how this happened. It's the second time in Arkansas in recent times where a suspect put in a police car in cuffs, had a gun, and somehow was able to fire a shot. In other news, last night, this Little Rock City Board of Directors voted 7-1 to buy riot gear for all Little Rock police officers. There was some objection that this sends a bad message to the black community particularly. They didn't have enough votes to immediately make the purchase. They'll have to wait 30 more days. We have a thoughtful column today by Circuit Judge Wendell Griffin, who said this kind of vote shows a stormtrooper mentality, that the police ought to be talking about community policing, community relations, better training of police officers, better recruiting of good police officers, and an independent review of police use of force. All these things, he said, in a city where we've had problems with police abuse of force, where black people have been killed, where there have been no riots, where there have been no police people hurt. Do we really need to buy riot gear for 500 people? I think race plays a strong role in this. You know, there's been a lot of talk lately about how the reaction to 9 people shot dead in a motorcycle gang shootout in Waco has been viewed much differently, and the suspects were treated with much less force as suspects were treated in some cities where violence has broken out when white police officers kill black people. Little Rock has become a majority-minority city. I think race bubbles underneath everything we do. When a majority white city board thinks that we need to have a more militarized police force, I think it does send a signal to the black community that fear stalks the land, and it certainly does. A federal lawsuit was filed yesterday in federal court by an inmate at the Varner unit who has a kidney transplant. He says he's had a hard time getting his proper dosages of his anti-rejection drugs. He says his life is in danger because he's not getting proper medication. It's an interesting issue. There'll be a special hearing next week. HBO has announced that it's going to do a series on Bass Reeves, a legendary U.S. Marshal, the first black marshal west of the Mississippi River. He worked under legendary Judge Isaac Parker in Fort Smith. The stories about him are huge. He'll be a main feature in the Marshall's Museum being built there. There's a statue to Bass Reeves now. Morgan Freeman's going to do the project. It should be interesting to watch when it's finally completed. This has long been in use. Nebraska, a solidly Republican state, today voted to abolish the death penalty with enough votes to overcome any veto by the Republican governor. So perhaps there might even be hope in a state like Arkansas, red though it is. And finally, there was an interesting piece of news about Walmart, the major retailer based in Arkansas. Somebody leaked a copy of one of their training videos for employees with a harsh anti-union message, not particularly surprising, but it perhaps puts the company in a little bit of an unflattering light. Some statements there that have caused some criticism on the web. Walmart's working busily to take the video down. We currently have it posted on our website. Check and see if it's still up there a little while later. That's it for today. I'm Max Brantley. Be back tomorrow.